The dragon type is possibly one of the strongest types out there. Well, at least it was until Gen 6 introduced the fairy type. And that's exactly why I want to play Pokemon X today. Let's see how much of a nerf it is having fairy types in this game. Now, it's not actually possible to get a dragon type until after the first gym, so we'll just skip ahead to when we can get one. Now, you might be thinking to me, Charmander? Charmander's not a dragon type. However, there is a form of Charizard that is. Therefore, we can pick up Charmander as technically our first Pokemon. So, I will be able to meet them soon. Yeah, I'll be honest, I want to see the dragon types too, Lysandre. We then get a Lucario who mistakes us for a car. We're actually just a person with skates, though. We then have Aragon evolve into a Charmeleon, which gets us one step closer to that dragon typing. We then finally get to Connecting Cave, and that gives us our first actual dragon type we can use, and that's going to be Axew. It takes us a pretty long time to find him, but thankfully we do manage to do it. We catch her, and we give her the name Arwen. Thankfully now our encounters are starting to pick up, as when we get to Route 9, we can get ourselves a Bagon. We end up catching it and calling it Gimli. However, enough encounters for now. We need to beat down Team Flare. Might I add that we did it flawlessly? We then get given a fossil which contains a dragon inside, that being the Jaw fossil. Thankfully in this game, the moment you get the fossil, you can revive it, so we do that and call it Boromir. And since we've got a gym coming up, we might as well do a bit of EV training to ensure that we're gonna win. Speaking of which, let's get right into it. Now, Grant thinks he's really cool, starting with an Ice type, and obviously that's super effective against Dragon types. However, he didn't anticipate me having Charm. However, even with that, it ends up doing quite a bit of damage. Therefore, I decide it's no longer safe to set up. My berry has healed me up past half, so he won't take me out, but I can't afford for him to stay in. I use one Brick Break, which is obviously going to take it out because it's 4 times effective. Next up, he's going to send out his own Tyrant. Now, this thing will one-shot any other Pokemon that I send out. Therefore, I have no choice but to start Charming. I managed to get 2 of these off before it's no longer safe for me to stay in, and I bring in my Axew. Thanks to the charms, he can't really take me out, and therefore all I need to do is use 2 Dragon Dance, and he is down. I was risking a crit here, but I don't actually see any other solution to this battle. We then have a battle against Karina and her 2 Lucarios. Now, this battle should have been tough, but she just decides to Swords Dance, meaning she never lays a hand on me, and I can take them both out with ease. We then run into the Mega Evolution Master, and oh my god, what are them eyebrows? Jesus Christ, just because you're losing it on the head don't mean you need to grow it out there. I then unfortunately end up over-leveling my Boromir while we're in Karina's gym, so I can't use him for the gym battle. Because I can't use Boromir, I have no choice but to start off with my Axew. Mindfu is always going to start out with a Fake Out, so I taught myself Protect, therefore the Fake Out won't touch me. Now, I've taught myself Dragon's Dance, so I use that as he uses power-up punches. Once he's got 2 off though, he's getting pretty powerful and I don't want to risk a crit. Therefore, I take him out. She sends out her Hawlucha next. Now, this thing can't be one-shot by me, but it also can't one-shot me, so I'm safe to use 2 Dragon Claw and take it out. Well, I would be if she didn't use her potions. However, she's only delaying the inevitable, and she will eventually go down. All we've got left to take down is the Machoke. Now, unlucky for him, he's quite slow. We've got double attack, therefore we take him out in 1. We then have a battle where we learn about Mega Evolution, and we use the obvious Dragon type in Lucario. Don't you guys say anything otherwise. You know that Lucario is a Dragon type. We then get to the point where Gimli can evolve. We then run into Ramos. However, we've got Dragon's Dance and Dragon Claw, so he doesn't stand a chance. We then end up getting to Route 13 and we run into a Trapinch. We manage to catch him and give him the name Gandalf. After that, we decide to steal from a rock. He thought it was hard, but we showed him. You've got to relight my tower. Thankfully, before this gym, Trapinch evolves into a Vibrava. And then it's time to go into the Clemont fight. He starts with the Mulga as I start with Axew. Axew does take some heavy damage, but thankfully he's strong enough to take down the Emolga with just 2 Dragon Claws. He sends out his Magneton, so I decide to switch in Gimli, but unfortunately he hits me with a Flash Cannon. I'm then thinking he'll possibly set up an electric terrain, so I switch in Vibrava. Unfortunately, I was incorrect and I do take some heavy damage. During the first turn, I know the Magneton won't go down, so I use a Dragon's Breath. This is to knock the Sturdy away and try and get a paralysis, but I'm not lucky enough to get that paralysis. It's then time to take him out. I use a Bulldoze, but I do miss. Thankfully, on the next turn, I don't end up missing, and obviously, it's going to take him out. He then sends out his Helios. Now, this thing does its best, but we know Dig, and that is going to one-shot it. Therefore, we've defeated Clement and got our next gym badge. With that gym battle done, I got the level, so Agju can evolve. We then go a bit further, and that brings us on to our next encounter being Gumi. We manage to catch him, and we give him the name Frodo. We then run into what must be the dirtiest shed I've ever seen. Someone needs to get their elbow grease and get this spick and span. Now, the next gym is Fairy type, and I want to face these guys as little as possible, so I just have to sneak past every trainer in this gym until I get to the gym leader. Now, even though she's the Fairy type gym leader, she starts off with Mawile and it doesn't have a fairy move. This means I'm free to use a couple bulldozers against it to waste her healing. Once her heals are gone, I make sure she's in the red and I switch into Fracture. Thanks to the Eevee Light I equipped to him, he doesn't end up taking that much damage, so I can set up 4 Dragon's Dance. Once the Dragon's Dance is set up, it's a KO for all her Pokemon. Not only am I incredibly fast, I'm incredibly powerful. Therefore, I can use Return and take all of them out. This Abominusnow is apparently a fine specimen. I wonder if youngster Joey would want him for his team. Aragon finally evolves into a Charizard, meaning we can slap the Mega Stone on him and use him at last. While we're out, we might as well have Gandalf evolve and finally get ourselves that Flygon. And why stop it there? Let's go on a proper evolution spree and get Haxorus. Now that we're plenty prepared, we can move on and go on to the Olympia battle. She leads with Sigilif, so I decide to bring my Haxorus out. I set up a Swords Dance, but she manages to set up a Reflect, which isn't good news for me. I then know I'm gonna need to stall a little bit, therefore I decide to go for a Dragon's Dance as she sets up a Light Screen. Now, I know I can take this thing out, but I can't take out the Slowbro that's gonna come out. Therefore, what I need to do is use another Swords Dance as she hits me pretty heavy with a Psychic. I know the Reflect is about to wear off, so I use one more Dragon's Dance and I get knocked low with a Psychic from her. Thankfully, I'd equipped a Citrus Berry, so I get a good chunk of my health back. After that, I'm free to take out the Sigilif with the Dragon Claw, and on it fainting, the Reflect wears off. Slowbro might be decently bulky, but he's not bulky enough for a +6, so one Dragon Claw takes it out. And finally, we have Meowstic. However, this thing is nowhere near as chunky as a Slowbro, so obviously we annihilate it. And that's the Olympia fight, 7 badges down, getting really close to the end part of the game. Lysandre then asks me to follow him to his chambers. Like, dude, I'm only 10, you can't be saying that. We then end up in Geosenge Town, and you have Team Flare blocking the way of getting out. But I don't think they realize we've got a Charizard. We can literally just fly away. They aren't doing anything. Next up, we get ready to awaken the beast. The Dragon Slayer that is Xerneas, the most powerful fairy type in Gen 6, is ours to be taken out by. It's that powerful that just during the revive, my character almost gets blown off its feet. I lead with Arwen against it, and however will I manage to get past it? Oh, well that was very anticlimactic, wasn't it? After we've taken that beast down, we have Lysandre come out. You might have noticed I haven't shown you the previous Lysandre battles. It's because it's a very similar strategy. He sends out his Mind Shout, and I'm going to lead with my Haxorus. The first turn, I'm pretty positive he's going to be going for Swords Dance, so I can get a Dragon Claw off. Unfortunately, he manages to survive on a slither of health. However, it has knocked him into healing range, so all I need to do is use 2 more Dragon Claws and I do take it out. We then have his Pyro come out. Now I know this thing isn't going to be able to take me out, so I use a Swords Dance against it. It does, however, hit me for some pretty severe damage, knocking me lower than half health, and that means on the next turn, I need to take it out with a Dragon Claw. Once it leaves the field, its Unnerve ability stops working, therefore my Haxorus can finally eat its Citrus Berry. And then out comes his Honchkrow. Now his Honchkrow, thanks to me healing up with that Citrus Berry, can't take me out even with a crit. Therefore, I decide to use one more Swords Dance. This puts me at +4, which means a Dragon Claw is more than enough to take him out. And then out comes the reason that I used the second Swords Dance. Had I not used it, I would only be at +1 attack thanks to the Intimidate from Gyarados. Now, thankfully, I'm at +3, and that means I'm more than powerful enough to take it out, even with it Mega Evolving. It would seem I roasted his shrimp nice and easy. I can only see one future. Hopefully that's the future where you subscribe. The town then basically implodes on itself. We're not any form of special services though, so why should we help out? Let's just leave and get on with the gym challenge. I run into this girl. She tells me about her brother who can actually reverse type matchups. Now, I really wish I had that ability because the next gym is Ice. After this, we get a triathlon of a battle. The first one is going to be Shauna. She leads with a Delcatty, but this Delcatty is painfully weak and goes down to 1 Dragon Claw. After that, we have a Goodra, but obviously that thing's going to be weak to a Dragon Claw, so it follows the same fate. We then have Chestnut. It survives an attack, and it manages to do some decent damage to us. It then ends up using a Spiky Shield, which we play right into by using a physical attack and lose some insane health. Tell you what though, he isn't going to do it twice in a row, so we take him down, and that is Shauna defeated. Thankfully, right after the Shauna battle, Gimli evolves into a Salamence. After that, it's time for the second bridge battle, and we don't get to heal between it, so we've got to take down Tierno with half health. I have a strategy though. I know he's going to be going to a flying type move, so I bring out Boromir. Boromir is a rock type, so it really does no damage, and all his moves are physical. This means I can use a few charms on him to lower his attack. However, at one point he decides to counteract this by using Swords Dance. I decide enough is enough, and I end up using a Dragon Claw, but unfortunately because of the Flame Body, I get burnt. This means I don't stand a chance of finishing it off next turn, therefore I need to switch out. I bring in Aragon, and he can Mega Evolve while using a Swords Dance. Even though he countered me knocking him to -6, he still is at -4, so he does pitiful damage to us. This means I can set up one more Swords Dance, and on the turn after, I can use a Slash to finish him off. After this, we have his Crawdaunt, but it doesn't even get a chance to make a move as we finish it off with a Slash. We then have the final battle versus Trevor. Thankfully, this time we're healed up before we go into it, but it's still a tricky battle. He leads off with his Raichu, and I know it's going to use an electric move, therefore I decide to bring my Flygon in. Flygon's a ground type, so he doesn't get hit on entry, and then on top of it, I'm going to take him out with 1 Bulldoze. Unfortunately for me though, ground type doesn't stop Static Body, and I end up getting paralyzed. He then sends out Florges. Now this thing is a fairy type, and with me being paralyzed, I just can't risk staying in here, so I decide to bring Arwen out. Luckily, on the switch in, she just uses Misty Terrain. This means that I'm free to set up 1 Swords Dance. She hits me quite heavy with a Moonblast. Thankfully, my Citrus Berry gives me some more health, but we cannot risk her being in, so we have to take her out. He then sends out his Aerodactyl. Now, I've got some speed EVs, and on top of that, I'm a much higher level. Therefore, I go to do a Dragon Claw against it. It's faster. Oh my god, it knows Skydrop, and it's grabbed me. I literally cannot do anything here, so I have no choice but to sack my Haxorus. This is such a It didn't end up killing me! Oh my god! I won that, but it was by the bloody skin of my teeth. Jesus Christ, I need to be more careful. All of them down does mean it's time for the Wulfric fight, though. He's an Ice type, so I'm gonna need to be careful. He leads with Abominous Snow, so I lead with Aragon. I have to Mega Evolve, so I've got my Dragon type in, but it does mean thanks to the Fire type in, all his Ice moves will be neutral. However, the Abominous Snow doesn't need to worry about that because 1 Flamethrower is more than enough to take it out. He then sends out his Cryogonal. Now, Flamethrower isn't actually enough to one-shot the Cryogonal, and he gets a Confuse Ray off on me. Now, I don't know who would be stupid enough to stay in during Confusion and risk losing their Pokemon. I, for one, would never imagine it. Especially not during a critical fight. I then end up switching in Sliggoo as he heals up. Somehow this thing is faster than me, so he does manage to get a Confuse Ray off. Thankfully for me though, I do break through and manage to hit a Body Slam. The Body Slam is more than enough to bring it back in range of the Flamethrower, therefore I can bring Aragon right back out. He does get hit for about half health with an Ice Beam, however the hail is stopped so no chip damage, and my Flamethrower takes him out. Lastly, he brings out his Avalugg, however Avalugg's special defense is atrocious, so Flamethrower wipes the floor with him. And that's the story of how I managed to get all 8 gym badges using only Dragon types. I managed to do it deathless as well, how impressive is that? I am such an idiot. Well, with him gone, it's time we go and catch another Pokemon. I end up getting to Route 22, and that gives me Altaria. He does very nearly wipe out all of my team, but thankfully luck is on my side, and on about the 6th Pokeball, I managed to catch him. Because he was such a pain, I decided to give him the fitting name of Golem. I am now finally playing at daytime, and that means we can evolve our Boromir. We do then have a Serena fight, but honestly, it's just a matter of Swords Dance Roost, and then we win, so I'm not going to bother showing it, as it's literally no point in it. We then manage to run into some rain, and that means Frodo can evolve. We then have the Elite Four. Now, I normally would think critically about who to take on first, but I'm quite angry. There's someone here called Drasna. Drasna thinks she is the best dragon trainer, and I cannot stand for it. Therefore, in my fury, let's take her out. She leads with Dragalge, and I lead with my Altaria. We end up trading Dragon Pulses and both doing some decent damage to each other. However, I had a Citrus Berry, therefore I get part of my health back. Since I'm faster, obviously one more Dragon Pulse will annihilate it. She then sends out her own Altaria. Now I know I can get one hit off on this thing before it manages to put me to sleep with Sing, so I use a Moonblast to do some heavy damage. However, then her Sing misses. That means it's free for me to take it out. Next up, she sends out her Noivern. Now, because we're on pretty decent health, we can survive an attack from it. So I use a Moonblast as it hits me with a Dragon Pulse. We survive, but we're on low health. Therefore, I decide to make the move of switching out, and I bring in Frodo. Frodo knows Thunderbolt, which is more than enough to get rid of the remaining Noivern's health. And last up, we have her Drudagon. Now, I didn't actually want to finish it off with my Gudra, so I send out my Gandalf. However, it had other ideas. It tail whips me back in. I suppose if you want to die by Frodo, I'll let that happen. I'll use a Dragon Pulse, and I will annihilate the rest of Drasna's team. And she thought she was something special. Now that we've taken her out, it's time to go for Wikstrom. He leads with Klefki, that's a fairy type, but I've actually got my Flygon and I've given it Soft Sand and Earthquake. That means the Klefki stands no chance of surviving. She then sends her Probopass out. Now this thing has Sturdy, so I decide just to use a Crunch to break its health as it hits me with a Flash Cannon. Once that's done, one Earthquake is more than enough to finish it off, and it brings out her next Pokemon, Aegislash. I know this thing is going to protect itself, so I decide to switch in Gimli to get an Intimidate off and lower its attack. From there, it's safe to bring Gandalf back out as he's not going to one-shot me, and I can use one Earthquake and the thing is down. Now, I did overthink this, like I could have just used Earthquake off the bat and won, but I obviously didn't think of that at the time. After that though, he sends out his Scissor. I have one Pokemon that has a fire move. Guess what it is? It's Aragon, so he's coming out. Then after that, one Flamethrower and it is game over for Wikstrom. We then have the Malvify. She starts off with her Pyroar and I start off with my Flygon. Pyroar cannot stand an Earthquake from Flygon, so it goes down. And after that, she sends out her Talonflame. Now, Talonflame's pretty powerful, therefore I decide to bring out my Tyrantrum. She really can barely touch this, and because it's a physical attacker, I can get off a few charms and lower its attack as much as I need. After that, it's safe to bring out Aragon. I can set up a few Swords Dances while staying healthy with Roost. And then it's game over. I use Fly and both the Talonflame and the Torkoal go down in one. She then sends out Chandelure and I go for a Fly. Unfortunately though, it misses and then on the next turn it uses a Confuse Ray. I decide to stay in and go for Roost just to get myself healthy after its next attack. But I hit myself in Confusion. Now, I don't know who would be stupid enough to stay in during Confusion and risk losing their Pokemon. I, for one, would never imagine it. Especially not during a critical fight. Damn, that sucks so much. On the plus side, it does give us a free switch into Flygon and we can one-shot with Earthquake, but I have lost a vital team member. We have 5 Pokemon left and the Water Trainer in Seabolt to take down. He leads with his Chloritzer and I lead with my Gudra, and I managed to do plenty of damage with a Thunderbolt, but it retaliates with a Dragon Pulse. After that, he gets in a bit of a spam of using Full Restore, so I just Thunderbolt till the Chloritzer goes down. He then sends out his Starmie, and this thing light screens me as I Thunderbolt, so I do next to no damage compared to what I was wanting to. Because I know I'm not going to take it out, I decide to use Confide until I'm in the red. Once I'm there, I obviously can't stay in, but I've lowered its special attack enough to make it safe to bring someone in. I opt for my Flygon, and thanks to its special attack being lowered, I managed to get off another 3 Confides using this guy. After that, I bring out my Altaria. Now, he's not going to get hit for much thanks to him being -6 in special attack, so I can set up some Dragon's Dance. Once I've done that, I can use one Earthquake, and the Starmie is gone. After that, he ends up sending out his Gyarados. Now, the Gyarados is... oh my god, it was supposed to be easy. I forgot to teach the Altaria something like Dragon Claw before I came in here, so I actually can't hit Gyarados with a physical move. At this point, there's really nothing I can do. I can't switch in safely to him, so I've got no choice but to get rid of one of my newer team members. I use a Moonblast, which thanks to the light screen makes it do pitiful damage, and then I'm taken out. Such a dumb and avoidable move on my part, but I suppose that's the way it goes sometimes. On my death though, the light screen does wear out, and that means I'm safe to bring my Goodra back in. Obviously, he's 4 times weak to a Thunderbolt, so he goes down in 1. We then have the Barbaracle. Now I know I'm not going to one-shot it, so I make the decision to sacrifice my Goodra here. I use a Thunderbolt and hit it for just over half health as it goes for a Stone Edge. But he misses! That spares me my Goodra, and he manages to take it out on the next turn. I'm so glad he missed, because it means I have 4 Pokemon going into the champion fight. However, it's my own fault that I don't have 5, as I'm the one that made a rookie move. Well, better not keep you waiting anymore. Let us get into the Diantha battle. She leads with Howlucha, so I lead with my Salamence. I did intimidate him, but it's not like it matters, as I just need to use 1 fly, and this guy is taken out. We then have Aurorus come out. Now, Aurorus only knows semi-accurate moves, so I know it's safe to switch in my Gandalf. She hit the Blizzard. She took me out. It was 4 times effective. I had Power-Up Punch, and the plan was to Power-Up Punch and Sweep, but it seems Gandalf's not getting any shot whatsoever. I then have a free switch in and decide the best course of action is to bring my Tyrantrum in. He's powerful enough where an Earthquake will decimate the Aurorus. She then sends out Goodra, but obviously that thing's incredibly weak to something like a Dragon Claw, so it goes down with ease. She then has her own Tyrantrum, and we trade some blows, but thankfully I had a Citrus Berry, meaning I'm on more than half health, whereas she's being taken out. She then decides to bring the Ghost of Gorgeist out, so obviously I'm going to destroy it with a Crunch. And after that, we have the Gardevoir. Now, I know this thing is pretty powerful, but I know my Crunch is going to do an awful lot of damage, so I stay in to do that before he takes me out. It was a sacrifice that had to be made. We can then bring out our Salamence, and obviously Gardevoir cannot stand a chance. 1 more Crunch, and we have won the Elite Four. Seems even if fairies are in the way, dragons reign supreme.